If I challenged your company in the next 12 months to find me and present me business opportunities that were creative finance strategy so that my audience, which is creative finance related, goes, I like that. No money down, cool. Money down, cool. Whatever. Let's figure something out. Is there an opportunity where I could buy something in the next 12 months?
I'm talking like 3 to 6 months.
3 to 6
months.
Let's go. Here's why we had Beau come over here, because there's a constant conversation. I'm watching very amazing, articulate, intelligent human beings talking about buying, selling businesses, not just with cash, but also with creative finance, right? And so people are constantly coming to me and going, hey, Pace, why don't you go buy a business with creative finance? And I go, I might. You know, this year we bought an RV, creative finance, camera equipment, creative finance. I'm going to buy a golf cart in 2 weeks, creative finance.
For the plane, bro.
I have somebody right now. I have somebody right now that's negotiating a seller, 2 planes that I can choose from, all in seller finance, no money down.
Yep.
I'm not sure if I want the planes because they might have a lot of issues. I don't know, but we'll figure it out. You can buy anything on creative finance. So people come to me and go, what do you know about buying businesses on creative finance? I go, you know what my problem is? I am the guy that built every business. And some people go, yeah, it's really cool though. It's cool. You built all this stuff. I'm like, is it really though?
Did you really enjoy running through all those brick walls to get there?
And people don't realize the things that you go through. So the reason I had Beau come in here today, guys, is to talk about the ecosystem that my audience doesn't know about, which is how can I buy a business? How can I sell a business? How do I know what my business is worth? How can I go, even if I built a business, how can I make sure I exit that business at some point at my highest valuation? And how do I prepare for that exit at some point? That is something that Beau and your partners specialize in. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. So I work with Josh Elizeche, who built Snow Teeth Whitening, and then Los Silva, who's a consultant to 8, 9-figure brands, et cetera, and a good mentor and friend of mine.
Smart guy.
So we've now essentially co-founded this deal called Deal Flow Brokerage. And I'm the CEO. And
how do if I'm listening right now, I want to go check out Deal Flow Brokerage while I listen to you. Where do I go?
Dealflowbrokerage.com. Or just hit me up on Instagram as well. So I'll triage and make sure you land in the right spot based on the leads too. So,
okay, cool. So Deal Flow Brokerage, the typical client that goes there is a seller or a buyer?
Right now, we have a good amount of sellers. Right. And for obvious reasons in the market, right. Some people are like fatigued from COVID at a place where they're like, hey, this has been a good run. I'm going to pull some chips off the table. And that's great. And we love that we love to walk them through and evaluate their businesses. And then we pride ourselves on having great buyer connections as well, which most brokerages will sell or say something to that effect as well. But I think one of the things I appreciate in like relationships with like Carl Allen, which we talked about out of Dealmaker Wealth Society, great network of buyers as well. And so the more we know each other's shorthand and more we understand what each other like, then we can build and kind of put together and patch together sellers and buyers accordingly.
Okay. So for somebody that doesn't know about this world, it's crazy to think when you're growing up that there's actual people that have a job that broker businesses. Yeah. And you become an adult and you go, holy crap, this is like not just a thing. This is a thing. This is big. There's business brokers that are dealing and wheeling and dealing, rolling things up into 10 different 10 different business package, doing IPOs, all sorts of things. How did you freaking even get into this, dude? My
journey has been a bit probably non-typical that you would see of a broker. And again, I'm getting to know my peers and comrades in arms, but my journey actually started on the big brand side of things. So I was actually at OfficeMax Corporate, just a young guy in the trenches doing work there. Yeah. And so I had the opportunity to be a part of seeing them launch some big marketing campaigns, understand the business side of things. I was a retail buyer for a while, so like picked what types of cell phone cases went on the shelves and things like that. But I had P&L responsibility. And so as I saw this like tension between marketing and merchandising came together, I was like, how does the money actually work within these things, right? And so digital marketing was happening at that time. Short story long, started my own agency after, I wrote out the recession, 2008, 2009 in OfficeMax. And then we actually were going to get bought by Office Depot. And so I started watching and learn about the language of what that looks like at this Fortune, 500 level. So that piqued my interest, and I thought, I think I should build something to sell it. John Warlow wrote a great book called Built to Sell. If you're in the service provider space of any sort, pick up that book. Great little handbook. Reads like a fiction. I mean, it reads like a story, which is great.
Which is what everybody needs.
For sure. And so me and a business partner, I'll spare you all of the entrepreneurial journey, but I started an agency with a good friend of mine.
People don't know what an agency is, other than obviously I do.
Yeah.
But what does an agency do typically?
Yep. So in the...
Because they're thinking like...
Yeah.
They're thinking Ari Gold from freaking Entourage. They're like, oh, that's an agent.
So in the business kind of growth space, there's advertising agencies. And marketing has become so big that there's just like 700 different specialties. You have PR agencies, you have growth lead gen agencies, those types of things. I really just kind of love business growth in general. And so I think it's funny you mentioned that, because I'm like, well, don't peg me as just an agency guy. I just care about business growth. Right. And I think that's why we were able to have some level of success and grow and sell that thing.
So a client would come to you and go, I need to grow, bro.
Correct.
Hey, Beau, I need to grow.
Yep.
And you say, okay, I'm going to go out and buy ads or ad space.
Yep.
I need you to create an ad that does this and this with this call to action. And we're going to go run these types of ads, or whether it's on social media, other places. And you guys would help them create marketing so that they could then turn around and produce sales for their business.
Correct. And here's what Josh was smart. And here's where I was developing reps and sets that I didn't know I was developing. The longer you go with this, you realize that not every client is a great client. And so you learn to audit that business before they come in and go, hey, like, we're going to scale your business. Like we can break you like as a business. So we would actually break some businesses. We would grow them and run them out of stock of this type and the other.
I do that all the time.
So
when I'm affiliating, so I had a company a couple of years ago, just to like tie this into my audience. I had a company a couple of years ago that I really liked. They were an insurance provider for me. And I go, well, I'm getting insurance from, I'm my Subto and seller finance houses and my fix and flips and my Airbnbs and blah, blah, blah. And I bring this insurance guy into my ecosphere to do a podcast.
Yep.
We essentially quadruple his business within like 3 or 4 months. Everybody starts using this guy.
Yeah.
Dude, he calls me out.
Crushed.
Well, we crush him, and then he starts being rude to my audience.
Oh no.
Because now he's under the pressure of like, holy crap, I can't fulfill. And so finally, instead of having a conversation with me man to man, he just was like, he basically was like, you destroyed my business. I'm like, I didn't destroy your business. I quadrupled it. You just couldn't hire fast enough.
Yep.
And so that's what some of these people, or this is what Beau is talking about, is that you can cripple a business by having it grow too fast because they don't know how to hire. They don't know how to manage their people. Maybe they have bad management. They have bad operators, et cetera. So you go and you guys take your power of your agency, you double their business in 6 months, and some businesses can't handle that.
Correct. And there's sometimes they're just a bad fit. And so I'm also looking for that on the audit side. We're going, our playbook isn't going to work for your operation as well. So it doesn't always go like it's yin and yang, both hand, right? But the important thing is what I was calling audit, the market that I'm now in calls due diligence, right? And so through 10 to 12 years in the agency space, $250 million in overseeing ads and campaigns, I was calling all of these audits and not due diligence. And as soon as my brain started flipping over to the M&A space, and we walked
mergers and acquisitions.
So we actually walked 6 or 7 clients through to getting acquired. And so I get to sit at the table and represent, because naturally I would kind of sit in as a fractional CMO and speak to their customer acquisition.
Chief Marketing Officer.
And
this should be a show about acronyms.
Sorry, it's almost as bad as like the military, right?
No,
so many acronyms.
What I love about it though is that you're so good at what you do that the acronyms are like putting on a pair of pants for you. And so you forget because they're so common, right? So this shows you as an audience, somebody's watching this, this terminology is so commonplace in the business world that Beau doesn't even realize he needs to stop and slow down because these are common words. It'd be like him stopping and explaining the word the. Like, how do I explain the to you? It's just a word we use, right? So M&A in his world is such a commonly used word. It's probably something you should learn. Mergers and acquisitions, CMO. These are things you need to understand. Chief Marketing Officer. I know it sounds simple, but there are people that, they have a 9-to-5 job as a school teacher. They have a 9-to-5 job as a plumber, and they've never had to interface with the CMO.
Yeah. Now, here's the encouraging thing is it's kind of all union speak. So if you learn the language and you know the language, it's all just shapes and parts, right? So like in the mergers and acquisition space, if I walk into a house, i.e. a business, and I say, you know what, like, I've done this before. I think that actually if we tidy up the landscaping, we've like a fix and flip mentality. Like if we do this, that, and the other, let's prioritize those things on the honey-do list, and then let's not invest our money there, but that's gonna increase your return on that property. Same thing. It's just different language, but it's the same mechanics. We just don't operate in the material space as much. It's all immaterial. It's all hidden in balance sheets and things like that. But if you honestly, mechanically, it's not that different. Yeah,
I like that. I like that tie-in is that business is business at the end of the day.
Yep.
And very similar moving parts, similar things, and similar activities of like, you're going to walk into a business the same way we walk into a house and go, how do I take this business in the as-is condition, improve it so that it can sell at the highest possible number so that my seller gets a great price, but my buyer also gets a great product.
Correct. And if you know the buyer's going to come in and destroy the kitchen and remodel it anyway, then
why touch it?
Then why touch it? Right. So like we look at it from that side, and that's the opportunity to sit at the middle of the table is to understand, okay, I think I'm going to sell it to a buyer that's actually really good at Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Right. So let's not like spend the arduous 6 to 9 months and thousands upon thousands of dollars to be good at that. Let's just be really good at organic or building an audience, like, because that's what they're actually after anyway.
Right.
Right. So you can play around strengths and deficiencies pretty easily.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I do find there's businesses that are either really good at running cold traffic or businesses that are good at only doing warm.
Correct.
And very few businesses have really figured out both. I've figured out both. We got both down pretty good.
Yep.
But I watch other people that are like we're all reliant on cold traffic. And as our ROAS climbs or return on ad spend climbs, these guys are all DMing me going, hey, how are you building your audience? I'm like, anyway, that's an interesting tie-in. That's a great way that that's like renovating the kitchen.
Correct.
It's like, I'm going to come in, we're going to fix your organic growth because you have no community. Your audience feels like an audience rather than they don't feel connected to you.
Yep.
Right. How do you do that? Well, you got to connect with them. Now you've renovated the kitchen.
Yeah.
And now this house can sell for a higher dollar amount.
Right. And so for those of you guys that have an interest in investing in businesses, buying a business, creative financing a business, again, it's just puzzle pieces and shapes. And so if you learn how to see those shapes the way that you do in real estate, I think there's a path there for you.
Okay. So let's go to that. Let's go there. Obviously this is what you guys do. The name of your company one more time?
Dealflow Brokerage.
But name of the website, I'm sorry.
Dealflowbrokerage.com.
Okay, dealflowbrokerage.com. You see what I did there, guys? Made him say it twice. Bing. One of you guys in the comments is going to be like, wait, what did he say? Go back and rewatch it. Go back and rewatch it. So dealflowbrokerage.com. Go pull that up. You guys are trying to facilitate sellers selling their businesses and also helping buyers find businesses to purchase.
Correct.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say Pace wants to show his audience how to go buy a business. Mm-hmm. My audience, and here's why I do think buying a business could be beneficial, is that some people have a 9-to-5 job.
Yep.
And they go, I don't want to go do one house and then another one house next year and another one house next year and another house next year. And by the time I'm 5 years in, I hate my job. I wanted to quit 4 years ago, but Pace, man, you told me to go buy a one rental at a time type of thing.
Yep.
And that took a long time. How do I cut the line?
Right.
How do I go get a deal? So first question are there any of your buyers, or you've been in the ecosphere of this long enough, are there buyers that don't have experience running a business, going out and buying a business that are 4, 5, 6 years old?
For sure. Cause they're just good operators. Okay. And so like, for those of you guys, I think about it through the lens of like entrepreneurial operating systems. Yeah. So like there's a guy named Gino, wrote a book on it. But if you've read like E-Myth, very similar to that. You have a visionary, an integrator, and an operator in his world. Yeah. Right. So you might find yourself in your
Rocket Fuel, guys, one of the greatest books of all time, Rocket Fuel, all about integrators and visionaries, genius book.
So if you find yourself in your 9-to-5 and you're a great operator, but you're lacking maybe vision to go start a company, guess what? Like you actually might be able to step into a business that has a great visionary, but sucks at ops or integration and has hit their local max where they can't grow beyond that. And they're looking for a great operator. Well, you could step in and position yourself as a hire, or you could step in and position yourself as an acquirer. Not to be manipulative, but if you actually know the language, know how to step in and acquire that business, there's a strong possibility you could step in and buy that business.
This is interesting. Okay. So I have a lot of employees.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of employees over the years. And I've heard employees make comments in passing, me walking by their desk, them not knowing I'm there. And they'll make a comment of like, man, if I was the owner here, I would blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And what you just made me think of is all these employees. If you guys are out there right now and you're telling yourself, if I was the owner of this business, I would do X, Y, and Z. What Beau just said is he opened up my mind of, well, if you're a great operator and you have these great ideas to improve the business, then why are you just not approaching the next business as an acquirer rather than another employee? That's all it would take. And if you really believe you're a great operator and you're crushing it in your job, but the company that you work with or work for is not changing anything and they're actually stagnant or they're going in the wrong direction, why are you putting up with that? Why not go acquire or be part of a different company that you can actually impart change?
Correct. And this is the power of the mind, and definitions and words matter.
Mindset, baby.
There you go. But like, think about it. So to close the loop on the journey real quick, as soon as I switched over that mindset of going, oh, I've been calling these audits, the entire world calls these, this thing called due diligence. My mind goes, holy crap. I have 10 plus years of due diligence experience to step in and understand what makes a good business good.
You were doing due diligence to essentially weed out clients that you would either potentially break, they couldn't handle it, maybe you didn't like their personality because they're rude or whatever it is. Yep. You were auditing up front, but essentially what you were really doing was preparing yourself for the next journey, which was doing due diligence for companies that were doing mergers, acquisitions, et cetera.
Correct. Yeah. And as opposed to the end game being a scope of work and be like, hey, dear client, I'd love to work with you. Here's the scope of work. It'd be like, hey, dear seller, you know what, you're ready. Like, let's go find you the right buyer. Or hey, buyer, you know what, this seller's ready. Or let's patch this together. Now let's put those puzzle pieces together. And if you're familiar with the book, Who Not How.
Phenomenal book.
Go read it, please.
Yeah, but 99% of you guys need to read it 5 times. I'm telling you.
And so, like, we were talking a little bit earlier about your dad's journey, right? It sounds like he's more of a how guy, right?
Very much a how guy. He wants to go,
and I can be a how guy. Listen, I was born in Lubbock, Texas, where we pulled ourselves up by the bootstraps, and and that's the mentality. But the opportunity cost of always pulling yourself up by the bootstraps is going to catch up with you at some point.
Yep.
And
my dad was so bad actually that he would, when he knew logically he needed to hire somebody, he would hire somebody, but then subconsciously would sabotage that person so that they left. Because my dad, the mindset is always like, it's going to be done right, it's got to be done by me. And so for him, here he is, 65 years old, still groveling about his employees, not managing and operating. My dad will never watch this, by the way. I love you, Dad, but I had to unlearn all the things that my dad taught me to do, which was work hard, be the one that's doing all the work, be the person that's putting your hands on the thing in order to exchange your time for money. My dad taught me amazing things, but that is one of the biggest problems that you guys have right now, you guys in the audience, is that you guys are all thinking about how can I work harder? How can I exchange more of my time for more money? And that's not the answer. The answer sometimes is who, right?
Yeah. And again, like if that's your trade, if that's your craft and you love it, do it till you're 65. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Right. But like,
Beau's being nicer than me. Don't do that. Go hire somebody.
But I think like at some point you've built up such resilience. Like if you're listening to this podcast, you're a self-starter, you're into Pace, you're into everything that he's done, and you are a hard worker, but you leverage your work in the right space at the right time. Right. And so you've gone through, I know your backstory, you've gone through, I kind of look at the entrepreneurial journey of three core chapters. There's the resilience, which is just getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
And for me, that was my 20s. I'll spare you all the gory details, but I got punched in my face plenty, personally, professionally, et cetera. We've had, my first kid was born early. We spent 6 weeks in the hospital with him trying to lead a business while,
juggling all the things,
living in the NICU. Our second kid was born with special needs, severe spinal condition called spina bifida.
That's your daughter, right?
Correct. Yeah. And so all of these things, it's not if, but when you're going to get punched in the face. And so if you're there and you're getting punched in the face, congrats. That's just part of this journey through resilience.
Congrats. I love that. Oh, you're getting punched in the face? Congrats. You're on the journey. You're on the path.
But if you don't graduate from that mindset into what I think the second stage is kind of congruence, right? Now I'm going, okay, what did all of those things teach me? How do I bring that together and do something that I can go and share with the market and applies to how I bring value to my day in and day out business and my job? Then you're not reinvesting the gift of those lessons to the marketplace so that it can go and learn.
That's a great way to look at it. It's, again, mindset. When I was a blue collar guy, just straight up, I'm blue collar in my bones, fortunately and unfortunately. But when I was just a blue collar guy through and through, and somebody would ever use the word mindset, big, no. Oh my gosh, can I roll my eyes any harder in the back of my head? But that's a mindset shift of when you're going through the congruence of like, how do I take all the experiences of getting punched in the face, and how do I then reinvest that back into the marketplace to actually be a value add to everybody else around me? That is the difference between being a victim and being a victor.
Correct.
Unbelievable. I love that.
Yeah. And that's the gift to the marketplace. Now, if you get really good at that, sorry, we're moving over to like how to sell something, but we'll close the loop on the how to prepare to buy something as well. But if you get really good at that, guess what? You're going to get to a place where you have a sellable asset.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're going to have something the market's attracted to, that they understand, that there's a gravitational pull around that. And within that, the third journey of like the entrepreneurial journey, from my perspective, is leverage. Right? Understanding how to leverage. You're not trading time for money. You're trading assets for someone else's assets in the context of how do you extract, or how do you build those things together in such that 2 + 2 or 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah.
I almost used the word synergy and I was going to puke. So I did
Synergy. That's the name of this podcast. Synergy.
So going back to this, if you're in a 9-to-5 right now, and you're going, okay, I'm a really good operator, but I don't want another job. I want to own something that I can actually manipulate, I can move forward, etc. Again, this comes back to the way that the glossary of terms that you learn, the way that you go through financing a deal. Thanks to you guys, you all have great advice on creative financing. All of the principles nearly can apply to creative financing, you buying your first business. And right now, speaking on behalf of some sellers, there's some tired sellers out there that are just like, you know what, man, if I could just have some sort of consistency, some fresh energy in here, and a great operator. I'm a tired visionary that is looking for a great operator to come in. If I can just like take a back row, take some chips off the table, and get some level of like, hero's journey story to exiting this thing, I'm good.
Yeah. So that ties into, and I want to keep giving breath to that question, but I want to make sure that people understand that a little bit more. I will never run a business ever without an integrator, right? But when I started all of my businesses 10, 15, 20 years ago, I didn't understand having an integrator and a visionary. I didn't even know that I was a visionary. I had no idea, right? And people go, well, what's a visionary? What's an integrator? Go read Rocket Fuel. It's a phenomenal book. It's an easy read. A lot of stories about the nation's largest founders and who actually was running the things behind the scenes. Like think about Walt Disney, what was really happening behind the scenes. Walt Disney was not the integrator, he was the visionary, right? Big picture, this is where we're going, this is what the company looks like, here's the name of the company, this is why people should be excited to invest with us, work with us, come and work as an employee on our team. The person who's creating the excitement and the buzz, and then when hard things happen, they're the people that reinvigorate and get and drive forward and go, okay, I see what our business is doing now. I'm actually going to go find another opportunity to bolt onto this as well. Or like in the multifamily or real estate space, the visionary is typically the person that's going out and raising the capital. They're on the stage. They're the ones that are on the podcast. They're the ones that are getting people go, man, I really want to invest in that company. I really want to do deals with that person. That's the visionary. So while I'm out on a camera talking about a deal and telling a story, I've got an integrator behind the scenes actually collecting people's money, working with the securities attorney on the Reg CA or the Reg CF or the Reg A or the Reg D, and they're doing all the paperwork, they're doing all the stuff. If I touch paperwork, I'm not doing my job. Whereas there's a lot of visionaries, this ties into what you're saying, that don't understand that they needed an integrator for the last 5 years, and that visionary is like, I hate everything about my business.
Oh, they're winded.
Winded.
It's exhausting.
Yes, and they have no idea. They just think another human is another human. No, we're not telling you to go get another human like yourself. In fact, I can tell you the best man at my wedding and I have not spoken in 6 years. And the reason being, another visionary, I didn't know at the time, I go, dude, I like you. Let's go do this business together.
Sure.
2 visionaries in the same kitchen, no integrator whatsoever, no operator, nothing. And I even hired employees that were visionaries or future business owners. So it was just a bunch of chiefs running this tribe, fighting with each other, and nobody was actually doing anything that actually mattered other than we would bring in a ton of sales, but the fulfillment on those sales would be lacking, and we'd be pointing fingers at each other. And now, it's an unfortunate thing that relationship is gone. I'll probably mend it at some point in the future, but it's still too new. And that comes down to not understanding visionary and integrator. And why is that important? Because what Beau just said is there are business owners that do not know this principle. And so they're visionaries or even integrators.
Correct.
Goes
other ways. Yeah.
The integrator could be the guy that's like, man, I got everything straight. I got the LLC's corporate structure. I got the building. I've got money in the bank. I've got a good secretary. I've got all these things and these systems and these processes. And I have every SOP imaginable laid out, but I have no business.
Correct. They're building the wrong thing.
I have no marketing. Yeah. I have no sales. Nobody's excited about investing in my thing.
But gosh darn it, the gutters are laid, man.
Right.
When that rain comes, they're ready, but they don't know how to make the rain.
Right. And so what happens is that creates a winded seller where an integrator, not knowing what they actually need, do you ever see businesses where it's an integrator that goes, dude, just bring me a partner 100%. That could buy into the business that's a visionary that could bring the marketing?
Yes. Yeah, so it goes both ways. It goes all three ways, I should say, because you got visionary, integrator, operator. So think about it through that lens of like, if someone's operating with a one-legged stool, they're going to get tired. You can't balance that forever.
No.
So again,
you'll get cramped, guys, and you'll do anything. You'll do anything to get rid of that cramp, which is the winded analogy. It's like somebody said something to me the other day. They said, which I really liked. They said, if I gave you $1 million a day for the rest of your life. But every time you swallowed, it hurt to swallow water, food, or anything. I was like, no, I would do anything to get rid of that pain.
Full stop, no.
Yeah. Full stop, no. I will do anything to get rid of that pain. Yeah. So when you guys are in business, homeowners, apartment complex owners, business owners, which is what Beau is talking about, there are business owners right now that every time they walk into their office, they grimace, they grind their teeth, they're having headaches, they can't sleep at night, and they're sitting there with a good product, but they have a missing piece. It could be you as the missing piece. It could be the fact that they're blinded from all the stress, the anxiety that they went through for 5 years to get that business to that point. And what they need is somebody like you to come in, either buy that business or partner with them. And that is what we call a tired seller, or in our world, it's a tired landlord, right? Yep.
Now, the challenge is physically, you can't see that in the walls when you walk in.
Right.
Right. And so you need to either educate yourself, find someone that educates you on that process.
Find a guy named Beau who went through 10 years of audits to be good at what he's doing.
That's a good option.
You go.
That's going to compress your time for sure.
Yes.
But find someone to go, okay, I'm looking for this type of thing. Can you make sure, like, I'm really good at drywall. Can you find me a place that has a desperate need for drywall? Because I can come in and do that.
Yeah.
Right. But in our world, it's immature. It's tough to see, right? Because I don't know where the bodies are buried. And then I walk in and I'm like, okay, cool. Here. I think you're going to be really strong at that. Then I've got to get that seller to go, yeah, you know what? I'm tired. Right. Like, this feels good. And I have weaknesses where this guy's
that would
strong.
be your job.
Correct.
As the business broker. You're the one talking to the seller and going, hey,
yeah,
this is what's really going on.
And this is where it's a little bit different than traditional real estate. On the business broker side, we get a little bit more into both buy side and sell side dynamics,
which I love.
Which is really, really.
You're having in-depth conversations with these people.
Both,
yeah,
right, all the time. And the key thing is aligning those incentives. And I appreciate that I don't have to do like the 11 o'clock at night. Like, hey, they're going to go up on this price and whatever. Like, I've never been in real estate, but I can imagine all of the back and forth.
It's horrible.
Agents. It like sounds.
So I'm not a real estate
exhausting.
agent. I could never do that.
We get to do it at the table in open forum, no big game of telephone, but I know both parties really heavily in that scenario. Right, where I can literally go, you know what, guys, you've admitted that this is a weakness for you guys. You've admitted that this is a strength for you guys. Like, can we just agree that if those two things came together, that we would create something really powerful here?
Yeah.
It's an easy conversation to have, but it takes a lot of like surround sound to get that coming together. The power of that is if you do that really well, it creates a really, really great company. Right.
Yeah.
And that's a win for all parties involved.
So I'm a visionary out here, right? I'm one of these 9 to 5 people that are like, I think I have great ideas. I hate doing paperwork. Chances are if you hate doing paperwork, you're a visionary. Okay. Like there's the simple test. Chances are if you hate being in public forum and like out there getting people excited, you're probably an integrator. That's like my surface level. What's a visionary? What's an integrator type of thing? Operators. I have a lot of great operators. They're like, I don't want anybody to know who I am. I just want to be doing all the things. I want to like a great transaction coordinator in real estate. Transaction coordinators, nobody knows who they are, right? Escrow officers, nobody has a clue who those people are, but they are the freaking gangsters and heroes for every real estate transaction. You just don't know they exist. Those are operators. They're actually operating and doing the things that make the money, which is great. So if you are a visionary and you're like, oh my gosh, this sounds great, I can find a business that has an integrator that's like struggling for marketing. So where do I go? I go to you and I say, hey, Beau, what do you know?
So for sure, you can definitely go that route. Totally fine to go that route as well. You can also just look across your ecosystem. And I think this is the power of recessions, to be honest, is what like previously you would have treated as competitors. Now there's this co-opetition thing that can happen, and people that are not currently or wouldn't previously be open to these types of conversations are. Yeah. And that's the power of what we're going through at a macroeconomic environment right now. So not to go too far into the deep past, but when we were at Office Max, we were going through the recession, and we thought, shoot, our volume in stores is going down. People are not buying ink as much. It was actually a leading indicator on a Stanford study. Ink purchases actually are a great leading indicator of a recession. Fact of the day.
Interesting. This is like
stuff going on.
What a great book that was.
Yeah.
Freakonomics. Holy crap, that book. I was forced to read that book in college, and I was like, this book is phenomenal.
It's great.
Really great.
But people start to look at things through a different lens. And so our scenario, we actually went and we were like, you know what? Who else is selling stores? Kroger, Safeway, or office supplies. Kroger, Safeway, all these people are selling office supplies.
Right.
So you look around and you go, and then we went and cold called literally our competitors, right? Like not directly, but we cold called them like, hey, how much do you enjoy running that aisle of office supplies? Like, we hate it. It's terrible. We'd rather sell milk and eggs. We know a lot more about milk and eggs. Yeah. We're like, cool. Can we just look over your shoulder and look at some of the data and see what value we could add? Sure enough, we could add 4 feet back to their store, which across 1,000+ stores, that's a good amount of real estate that they can go sell other things.
More eggs.
Through our domain expertise. So that's the conversation you can go and have with your competitors is, again, above board, do it with integrity. But now if you can show the value, now all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, I think like there's a scenario here. And again, not to get too circular, but if you can figure out how to creatively finance that and you're like, you know what if there's a scenario where I buy into this or buy this company full on? Yeah. There's a scenario that could all work.
A couple of things that come to mind. Target. Okay. Target. I just went to Target the other day and I noticed that, what's that big makeup company that they have their own standalone stores? Ulta. Okay, so Ulta, thank you, Eric. We should have a camera on you, bro. Let's get a camera and a mic on you. Guys, if you want Eric, you guys want to see what Eric looks like? Okay, if you're a single woman looking for a man, he's not on the market. Okay, just so you know, he's not a tired, winded seller. You're not going to be able to come in and do a leveraged buyout. Okay, he is committed. Now, I go to Target and Ulta is inside there, and I'm like, wow. 3 months ago, there was an entire makeup department that was all Target ran. Ulta comes in and goes, yo, dude, you guys really suck at this. Your marketing, your end caps, the way people are enticed to walk into those aisles is basically non-existent. Yep. Let us come in there. We'll do a rev share on the deal and we'll take over that real estate space, but we'll amplify it and make sure that you guys make money. So that's what you're talking about, doing a value add. How do we leverage into that relationship? As it ties into real estate, the thing that I thought of is how I actually got ownership of a title company. I'm really great at marketing. Yep. And so I would talk about where I'm doing my deals. In fact, I would actually go down to the title company frequently and sign my contracts or sign my final settlement statement and my final closing docs right there. And we would record it. And then I would throw it on my YouTube channel. And then next thing you know, my title company calls and goes, hey man, thank you for sending us all this business. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no problem. And I didn't even think until somebody like you, Beau, comes along and goes, why are you not getting paid for that? Yep. I'm like, no, I just want to help them. And they go, just so you know, they have a marketing department that they pay $20,000 a month to, and you should be getting a portion of that $20,000 because it's being spent regardless. I go, is there really that much money being spent? Sure enough.
Yes.
They had a $20,000 budget for the marketing guy who was on a 6-figure salary to go out and collaborate with people like myself. And I was sitting there refusing free money because I didn't value my own self and I didn't realize what I brought to the table. So if I'm an escrow officer, here's another thing. If I'm an escrow officer, I'm working at an escrow company and you understand creative finance, you understand certain elements, why couldn't you go to another title company and go, if I added the knowledge of understanding how to do a double close, a novation agreement, a lease option, seller carrybacks, sub-twos, wraps, whatever it is, whatever the creative strategies are, I would like to drive traffic to your business, but I want a portion of ownership for doing that, right? You're adding value to their company. You're collaborating rather than thinking, how am I going to compete with this person? Especially in a down economy right now, a lot of escrow officers are losing their jobs. And I'm looking at escrow officers. I'm like, if I was an escrow officer that understood creative finance, I'd find a title company that wasn't focused on that, because there's so many, there's this segregated market of like, Fidelity is known to focus on real estate agent relationships.
Yep.
Chicago Title, wholesalers. However, my title company focuses on wholesalers, buy-in holders, retail people, agents. And so we dominate because we actually bring in more business. Guys, if you have that, if you have an experience in whatever business you're in right now, even if it doesn't matter what your job is, go look at the other competitors in that space or people doing the same thing and go, how can I bring what I have to the table to leverage and maybe get some ownership or some sort of something out of that? That's smart. Never thought about it.
Done. Yeah. And again, you've got to look at and expand your brain around these dynamics, because you're largely calling some of these business activities that you're doing certain things, but you're probably not looking at them from a campaigner's mindset of going, okay, what are the puzzle pieces, et cetera. And so like, I always think about this analogy of like, man, when our first move, we didn't have like two nickels to rub together.
Where were you living at the time?
So we were moving from Chicago to Colorado.
Yeah.
I'd flown to Colorado 7 spring breaks in a row to network up and down the Front Range of Colorado to try to build a lifestyle out there and build a life out there. And so throughout this, so when Office Depot bought Office Max, they were basically like, hey, even if like we watched a few people get walked out, a lot of people get walked out in that process, et cetera. And so again, these things are imprinted on my mind of how do you go through M&A respectfully for both parties, right? To make sure that it is going to be a bad day for some people. And again, not all acquisitions involve firing people immediately. In fact, I kind of prescribe more to like the GE model, which is like, cool, if this thing was working just great on its own, it maybe just needs jet fuel here and there, but like the pile of logs that was already a burning fire, like let's not move the logs.
Right.
Sorry, mixed metaphors. But the question was, sorry, I apologize.
I'm a 9-to-5er.
Yeah, I'm a 9-to-5er.
I want to find a business.
Right, and I'm learning to look at business differently, right? And so that's where you need to learn and be around people that are going to expand your thinking and to understand what people's strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and where the opportunities are within that.
Yeah, these are like, even in this podcast in the last 30 minutes, there's little things that you said that I'm like, man, if somebody told me that when I was 16, right? Or other people that are victims out there that are constantly saying all these things that have happened to me, somebody DM'd me this morning and said, I can't catch a break. And I'm like, no, you're in the getting punched face. You're in the getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
Right. You got to get to the next phase, and then you got to give that gift back to the marketplace. You need to be around people that are asking these questions, having these conversations, using terminology you're not used to, that so you can reframe and rewire your brain to look at things completely different.
Yep. And if you're looking at it from so say you have an asset that you're sitting on right now, and it literally could just be a Facebook group that you built. One of my favorite Facebook groups right now is average middle income garage goals or something like that. It's an amazing like little group. It's like probably 70 or 80,000 guys that post random stuff like, hey, I just mounted this like cool thing where I can store things in my garage. That's an asset. Yeah, and I'm sure someone just built that as a hobby just for fun because they came up with a fun title and whatever. But that's an asset to maybe Auto Anything could jump in and buy that because they need to be in front of that. Maybe Garage Smart, who has like cool accessories or whatever, can come in and do that. So these little hobbies that you guys have are actually assets. And again, if you just built those in the context of like, yeah, I'm going to build this thing to sell it, and understand that you're bringing an audience to the table, that's a thing, right? So
I didn't even think about it. Like that was a rewire for me too. Like we have a 75,000 person Facebook group. It is a tremendous asset for us for lead generation, for buying deals, and in fact, recruiting employees, right? But I never looked at that as an asset in the sense of, could I sell this ecosystem to somebody at some point? Because it does produce a lot of income. It's a free Facebook group, but it does produce a lot of income.
For sure.
It's like, who do you sell it to? Oh, could you sell it to a Fidelity Title? Think about Fidelity Title. They just bought, they buy businesses all the time.
Yeah. And you got to know what's going on in the market right now. So right now, customer acquisition cost is at an all-time high. So
why is that? Is it because marketing's high and everybody's competing with each other, or people are turned off by marketing in general?
Yes and yes. So two main things, right? Traffic cost is always going to go higher, just the nature of the beast, right? Yeah. So at one point you could buy clicks on Google for $1 for certain things, and now those things cost $10 for those clicks or whatever. Right. So advertising cost always goes high, and the channels already changed, but there's been such a seismic shift in the channels where a lot of people have thought, well, I can just buy leads on Facebook, or I can just buy leads on Google or whatever. There's been this single channel mindset. Right now, we're having such disruption that we're shifting into an omni-channel mindset of how we buy and create surround sound. This is what you've done so well.
Yeah.
You're everywhere. Congrats.
I'm everywhere except I'm really upset at our team for not getting my LinkedIn dialed in properly. Make a note of that.
There's worse places to be weak.
Yeah, I know. But I get an email from LinkedIn every week that's like, you showed up in 800 LinkedIn searches this week. I'm like, that's 800 people I could be doing business with, that could be investing in my deals, could be sending me deals. But there you go. There's a pain point for me. So somebody's really good at running LinkedIn, might be an opportunity for you to come and get some sort of ownership in something I'm doing. There's an opportunity. I'm a winded seller.
So the general idea here, though, is that you can come in and and so if you happen to own customers, we were at a closing table yesterday and someone goes, hey, we have 210,000 emails that we've done nothing with.
Wow, that's big.
That's an asset, right? And that's an untapped asset. So now the buyer's looking at that and going, we happen to be pretty good at email. I wonder what that would look like if we re-engage that list.
Yeah.
So, but they've just been doing that passively where every order confirmation goes out to, yes, they send them their order confirmation and that's it. No post-purchase upsells, no nothing on the back end because they're just not good at email.
Right.
It's not their fault. Just not good at it. So you're likely sitting on an asset. And again, I don't know you as well as you're getting to know me in the moment, but there's likely something that you're sitting on that is worth value to someone. And it could just be that you're like, I love building Legos on YouTube, right? Yeah. And I built an audience around that. Whatever. That's worth something to someone.
Actually, shout out to Nisha, one of my students. She's like, the first time I ever did a Zoom with her, I looked in the background and she's got all these amazing Lego stacks. And I'm like, what's up with all those freaking Legos? You got like 8 kids? And she's like, no, that's my hobby. I love Legos. And I'm like, amazing. And she goes, I was thinking about starting a Lego YouTube channel. I'm like, yes, do it. Do that. That actually is an asset.
Yep.
Right? You want to sell a product or, I can't remember the name of the company, but the block company, they're the bigger blocks. Hubla, it's not Hubla.
Mega Blocks?
No, that's one too. But I mean, you could do all sorts of cool things. Look at all these kids out on YouTube where essentially they're getting paid $20, $30, $40 million just from product placement and saying, we'll give you all the things plus a check to play with our toys on YouTube, right? There's an asset there. And you could make a Facebook group alongside that. So now you have an accompanying community that is people challenging each other to build the coolest Lego things. And you have, dude, I got to get into Legos now.
So, okay, let's just look at it from the buy side as to why it's a great time to buy. If you're all right with it, we go there and what to look at.
Okay, let's do it.
Is that good? So it's a great time to buy for a few different reasons. One, where else is the money where else are you going to put your money? Right now, there's more like...
The only place I ever argue is real estate. It's the only place I ever argue.
Correct.
But the market, depending on how you look at real estate, market is trending downward. Mm-hmm. And in this market, in Phoenix, we had houses that were worth $500,000 at the beginning of the year, now worth like $370,000.
Great time to buy and hold.
Great time to buy and hold. So I'm a buy and holder. So for me, I'm always excited about buying real estate because I'm not worried about that. But if you're a fix and flipper, horrible place to put your money right now, right? So, but if you're a buy and holder, it's a great time. Things are on sale. Awesome. Perfect. And I think it's going to get even worse. Today, interest rates went up 0.5%, I think at least. And then February, interest rates are going to go up again. But my argument is that I don't think there's any better place to put anything besides real estate except for what we're talking about here, because you are acquiring a cash flowing asset.
Correct.
This isn't Bitcoin that sits there and it's completely manipulated by by outside things.
Yep.
It's not going out and just investing in, okay, I'm going to learn a new skill I have nothing to do with, and I'm going to go build, I'm going to invest in myself and I'm going to go build a business for 5 years and beat myself up. This is a wonderful place to do it, because I think as a buyer, you also have more opportunities right now because there's more sellers that are winded today than there were 5 years ago.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
And again, this isn't manipulative. It's not predatory. There are some zero down guys out there that like, I'm always like, well, what kind of business are you going to buy for zero cash out of pocket?
Right.
There's going to be some bodies buried there.
Right.
And that's okay. There might be a perfect scenario where if you know what the right thing is to look for and you're like, yeah, I know how to fix that. I know how to fix that. That's great. There is a scenario where there's healthy cash flowing businesses out there that are on the market that might have been hard set at a 7x multiple on their profit. Sorry, I'll get into the quick valuation side of things. So let's say you're a business that's making $1 million a year and your profit is $200,000 a year. In the mergers and acquisition space, we talk about valuations based on multiples. So multiples of that bottom line in that scenario. So at a 5x multiple, that business is worth 5 times 2. It's $1 million business.
Right.
At a 3x multiple,
so they would sell it for $1 million in that
Correct.
situation.
Correct.
Or if a 3x multiplier,
at
600,000.
Correct. And so your goal as the buyer to come in is to work through the multiples, to talk through that, and also to creatively finance those types of things. There's some people that will come in zero down and do seller financing and things like that.
And I imagine in that situation, I think where you're going is that you'll find a seller that really cares about a very specific bottom line number and go, I want to sell I know my business is only worth $5 million, but I want 6.
Correct.
And you can go up in there and go, I'll give you 6.
Yeah.
But you got to give me really good, favorable terms.
Correct. And today is a better day to do that than it was 18 months ago.
Same exact thing with real estate right now. It's like we're negotiating big apartment complexes at $5 million over their value.
Yep.
But I tell people all the time, the value of something is never the purchase price. The value of something is always what I can do with that thing. Right?
One more time for the
value of something. The value of something is never the purchase price. The value is always what I can do with that thing.
Correct.
So same thing with a business is that if it's a good cash flowing business and they just want to, here's what I say. In our world, right, we have subject to where there's an existing debt. So it'd be like in your business, somebody went and started a business with an SBA loan.
Yep.
And they go, I can't handle this debt anymore. It's suffocating me. I go, great. Can I take over your SBA loan?
Yep.
Or I'll take over your business and I'll make the payments on the SBA loan and I'll fix whatever. That's subject to.
Right.
Right. In seller finance, you got a seller that's like, man, I have a really great asset. I built this. It took me 7 years. Or in real estate, I've owned this for 30 years. I've operated this at top notch. I'm not willing to settle on my purchase price. And yes, I see that all these commercial brokers are telling me that it's worth 30. I want 37.
Yep.
So somebody like me comes in and this is how I look. I go, sub 2 is needy. Mm-hmm. They're in a desperate situation. Seller finance, the seller you're talking about that has a good cash flowing business. Sure. I say needy and greedy. Mm-hmm. And I have nothing wrong with greed. Mm-hmm. Somebody deserves to be greedy that put all these years and hard work and going through, because think about it, it's the seller that wants to sell a business that cash flows well above what it's currently worth.
Yep.
Doesn't mean he's a bad guy. It means he understands the value of how he'll cut down your learning curve 7 years, 10 years, or whatever. He went through classes, masterminds. He went to coaches. He had lawsuits. He had HR complaints. He had all sorts of issues. He had employees he had to fire, then bumped into the grocery store, and the employees like this. I mean, they went through everything you could possibly imagine. And so I think that they deserve to be greedy as long as on the other side of the table, this is your job as a business broker, is to provide terms that make sense for that high purchase price.
Correct. So
and those do exist.
Okay, so this is important to you, and this is the qualitative side of things.
Right.
In that scenario, that person might actually really like the business. They're like, cool, if I could just play air traffic controller on this business and make sure that I make sure that the planes don't hit because I've got that tribal knowledge of being in that business for 5 or 6
I like
5 or
that.
6 years.
Tribal knowledge. I like that.
Right.
Tribal knowledge would be, I assume it's like you've been in the thing. You've been boots on the ground in the business. You understand it. And you also understand the whole ecosphere of that business and how it relates to other things. And it's like, I like being in there, but I don't like being at the office type of thing.
Yeah. And by the way, as the buyer, that's the very thing that scares the Jesus out of you stepping into that business is I don't have that tribal knowledge. Right. I haven't been in this industry for a while, but I understand the mechanics of the operations.
Yeah.
That's a healthy marriage.
Or I have the energy.
Right. And the energy. Right. And then your seller's like, man, I just want some time off the mat. Like just tap me out for a minute.
Yeah.
But like, I still know a lot about wrestling.
Yeah.
I just make some metaphors. Sorry.
No, I love it.
Then someone's sitting there and going, yeah. Okay. So if you can present a deal where you can let that seller off the mat, right? Just get out of the day-to-day grind of that entire business, but you can incentivize them to continue to stay around and make sure that the right moves are made at the right time.
You know, I'm going to tell you an embarrassing situation that ties into this perfectly. So I was a contractor for a long time. Again, learned everything the wrong way, just like everybody did. And I have this restoration company come to me, completely different business model than a contractor, right? They are a licensed contractor, but their clientele is completely different. They're working for insurance claims, right? Somebody's house flood, water, mold. You see all the trucks around restoration with the fire, whatever. I'm a guy that's doing renovations and remodels for retail clients and then also fix and flippers. There's no insurance related anything involved. Yeah. Who makes more money? The restoration company makes way more money. They're working for insurance companies that are required by law to use this software called Xactimate. And Xactimate pays a premium, and you cannot fight that premium that is in that universal industry software. Industry-wide, everybody uses it. In my business, it was whatever I put together in my quote, and whatever the customer was able to negotiate me down on is what our final price was. So I had this guy comes to me and goes, dude, you got more energy than a freaking lava volcano. You are growing this construction company. You're using social media. You understand all these things. Like, I'm so impressed by you. I've built my restoration company literally by just relationship handshakes for the last 15 years. I'm running out of energy. Yep. Why don't we collaborate? Bro, I've never told this story one time. I told this guy no, and I'm not realizing this until right now in this podcast. I told this guy no because I was like, why do I want to be part of your business when you have no energy to be involved in it? Mm-hmm. And I literally was like, oh, no, thank you. Really appreciate the opportunity. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing over here. And I turned down ownership in this guy's existing way more profitability. They go do $1 million of work. I go do $1 million of work. The bottom line is not the same.
Versus like 15 or 20%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like volume. This guy's over here. He's like, I do one job at $1 million, or let's say I do $1 million that month. He's like, my take home every month is $200,000. Yeah. And I'm sitting there like, I don't want to, dude, this is exactly what you're talking about. You're finding sellers that have gone through all this stuff for 15 years and they don't understand social media. They're still stuck in the fax machine mentality. So somebody could come in, a new visionary that comes in and goes, dude, the skeleton of this is unbelievable. Let me bring in social media. Let me bring in all these things. Dude, I'm such a dumb. I turned this thing down. I didn't even realize it until right now how dumb I was.
And the thing, well, you're not that.
Well, I learned a lesson, but it took me a long time to learn the freaking lesson.
I'm pretty sure, I mean, you zig versus zag, but it's turned out all right. You're doing it.
I'm done okay. Yeah. I mean, maybe in retrospect, I'm glad I'm not a restoration contractor, but I wish I had that knowledge, because not only would I have had that knowledge, but I could have come in, I could have cleaned up the business in terms of the marketing and made it so it's less dependent on personal relationships. Leave those personal relationships there, amplify those, but also couple it with the outside marketing and bringing in other clients. Yeah. And then I could have gone off and sold that business. I didn't even think about that.
That's the ghost of Christmas future that you just,
all three of them, bro. It's all three wrapped up in all of them. So sorry to go back to what you were saying. I cut you off, but
you're good, brother.
I just had an epiphany of like how important this knowledge really is.
It's interesting, right? But it's just a reframing of how you think about the shapes in business. And I think we're just if you're a good operator, you're in the weeds, and by design, you're in the weeds. You're enjoying that, but but that's a skill. That's something. Right. And so on the buy side, it's a great time to come in, because there's not a lot of places other than real estate, I agree with you, to buy and hold. In the business environment, you can buy, fix, cash flow, and hold, which is probably not too dissimilar than what's happening in real estate.
Right.
Right. But you're at least cash flowing that business, and you can pay off your debt financing if you wanted to put some cash on the table up front, which I'd highly recommend if you're going to create a good, long lasting relationship with your seller. Those types of things matter. And then now 2, 3, 4 years, depending on your strengths. And this is what, like, if you look at like Marcus Lemonis has done so well.
The prophet, genius. Yeah.
Correct. He has he has an internal agency. I'm getting a bit into growth dynamics, but he has a small pod, let's call it 3 to 5 people that grow this house of brands. And then he just leverages his connections. He's got, I got a guy at Costco. I know the retail buyer at Costco. I'm going to go buy a key lime pie, whatever filling company. And I'm gonna leverage that connection to go and sell what was a small mom and pop out of Key Lime or Key West, Florida, wherever the original key lime pie was. And I'm gonna go sell that into Costco. right? Now he comes in and he goes, cool, I know the people that can co-pack, get this thing done, surround that with some good packaging and design from his in-house agency. And then he's just leveraging that connection with this Costco buyer.
Right.
You have that on a microcosm in your entire world, whether you know it or not. There's someone that you met at a trade show. There's someone that you met along the way that you're like, as opposed to just an email introduction, which is what so many of us good-hearted people do, we can leverage that entire network to the betterment of our business, a future business, etc. And that's not malpractice.
Bro,
that's
people need
just
to be paying
literally
you for this
reframing.
Knowledge. They need to be paying you for this knowledge. This is insane. The reason I deviated to the restoration thing is because you mentioned you'll sometimes get a seller that goes, I'm tired, but I have the tribal knowledge.
Correct.
I want to stay involved in the business, right? That's why I didn't put a cap on that conversation. That's where my mind went. It was like, okay, that seller for the restoration company was like, why don't you come in? I'll stay on board. I'll still do things with you for 3 to 5 years, but I want to exit this business entirely in 3 to 5 years and still get a check. So why don't you work your way into my business by providing what you provide, and by the time 3 or 4 years down the road, I still have the same paycheck coming to me, but I don't have to be in the business anymore, and you're the majority partner, and I can just be a good reference and a coach and a framework for you for the rest of your life because I have this tribal knowledge.
Yep.
Then the other thing that popped in my mind about this like key lime pie thing, and I'm thinking, how many people are eating food on a daily basis that was because of a leveraged relationship behind the scenes that you guys have no idea what's really happening, but it is really happening, that these people don't look at as a relationship as I'm going to pass this off as an email introduction. They look at that and go, how can I leverage this relationship in a non-manipulative manner, utilizing resources I have in my world to actually jump on this opportunity and make money with this individual.
Yeah, it could be a JV to start with, or just something, a little 10% rip on that or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Just start there. It's not manipulative. It's like how many networkers have you met that their mom is like, man, if you could just get paid for every, every whatever, that's a strength, right? And the key thing is you might not be viewing your network in these puzzle pieces. So, back to the moving story. Wow, we got back there. So like the first time we moved,
this is the sign of a good conversation, guys. You have to keep going back because this is a great conversation. And hopefully the best podcast, the reason I think I love Joe Rogan and why everybody else loves Joe Rogan is because it's just two dudes or two people having a conversation based on, like Joe Rogan says all the time, the only guests I have on my show are people I'm genuinely interested in learning from. And so you guys have to understand that you're sitting here like a fly in the wall. I'm learning and getting my mind rewired right now. This is not an act. I haven't thought about that restoration thing in 12 years. And I just had it reframed. If I could go back and invent a time machine and reframe my mind back then, like guys, think about the time and energy that Beau is changing, or he's compressing for you. So you don't have to go and figure these things out the hard way. Like I had to do a damn podcast with Beau to reframe my mind. He's doing it for you guys. This is freaking amazing.
So the first move. So we go through it.
Chicago
and I remember,
to Denver.
Right. And I'm looking at like our lamps in our living room. And I'm like, how do I freaking package up a lamp? I don't know. It's delicate. There's this thing. Like, what do we even do with that? And so it took us forever, right, to do these types of things. And then our second move, when we moved within, we broke lease because we found a house that we enjoyed, and lo and behold, I got into the market at the right time. But I remember I was like, okay, cool, we're gonna actually pay someone to do this time, because that was freaking laborious. That was insane.
And it kept you from actually moving forward.
Correct. And I watched these guys come in and they packaged up that lamp and they did it 5 times faster. Yeah. And it was like, in my head, I was like, well, that's delicate. That's that thing. That's the first thing that this came from my grandmother's house, this, that, and the other. And I'm stuck in the emotions of it. And I remembered I watched these guys pick, pack, and ship or whatever. Right? They pick, pack, and move this whole thing. And I go, oh, they just see it as shapes. That's the only difference. They just see all of these amorphous, like weird shaped things in my house as it's just shapes for them and the shapes that they've seen before. Yeah. You can get there with business where it just becomes shapes. And all you're doing is just moving those shapes around in such a way. The challenge between the physical space, which you deal with in real estate, and the business is it's a bit more immaterial. And so like, I would encourage each of you guys to go spend time with people that see business as shapes, however it takes, to where they understand market forces and things like that. And also study some Stoic philosophy, become less emotional about the things that you do day in and day out, so that you can start to see the world in shapes as well. And then save your emotion for the important things. Hey, seller, what's important to you? Hey, buyer, what's important to you? Now, if 80% of your world is just learning the shapes of business, and now you can walk in and you can be Chip and Joe and walk into a house and go, hey, let's do some new landscaping. Let's do this, boom, boom, boom. And then the other 20% is the emotional side of it, of putting that playbook together with, putting your playbook together with that person's playbook, your network together with that network. You can create some magic.
Yeah. It's like playing real life Monopoly, guys. Real life Monopoly, looking at things as a game piece, essentially, and how do I move them properly? How do I utilize this space to get me to amplify to this and all that kind of stuff? It's basically playing a game differently. And I love the part about go research stoicism, because so many people are living in their emotions all the time. Mm-hmm. And you need to save the emotions for the important things, like actually understanding what a seller needs. I call it finding the bunnies in my business. So like my first deal I ever did, I go talk to the seller. Literally, I had no idea what I was doing, but I was being kind of coached along. And I go to this first appointment. Seller's name's Janie Munson. Couldn't break through. Couldn't get her the number she needed. But as I'm leaving the appointment, I was like, I can't help you. You need too much money. I can't help you. Whatever. And then I'm like, you know what? If I can't help this lady, at least let me give her some emotional income. Let me give her some emotional help. So I stop, I ask her, how can I help you? What other way can I help you? She's like, you want to help me, but you don't want to buy my house? I go, I want to buy your house. I just can't pay the number you want, but I'll help you. I have a construction company that we can load your truck. We can do this, that, and the other. She realizes, wow, this guy actually has an emotional, interest in helping me out. He just wants to help me. So she goes and she shows me in her backyard. We go to the backyard. She opens up her sliding glass door. She shows me 3 massive sized bunnies. Huge, like they're like 4-year-olds in bunny suits. They're so big. And I realized in that moment, it wasn't until like a couple of weeks later, I ended up buying the house, and here's what happened. I go, what do you need me to help? And she goes, I need to rehome these bunnies. Mm-hmm. My granddaughter bought them for me. They're too big. They're like children of ours, and I need to make sure that they go to a good family. So I go, I'm going to call my mom. So I call my mom. My mom comes up there in 45 minutes. She takes the bunnies. Janie Munson 2 weeks later calls me up and she says, I'm going to sell my house to you. I go, why? And she goes, because you're the only one that cared. Everybody else came in and beat up my house, told me.
It's not complicated.
It's not complicated. It's finding everybody's bunnies. And here's what was going on. She said that because of the bunnies, she literally waited a year to sell that house because she didn't know how to handle it. It's kind of like the lamps, right? You're sitting there going, and the lady who was kind of coaching me on, her name was Bethany Willis. And Bethany says to me, she goes, Pace, it's never about the house. It's never about the house. I'm like, what does that even mean? And it wasn't until I ran into the bunnies on my first appointment that I go, oh, it was actually about 3 bunnies in the back of the house that were keeping this lady from making a decision to change her life and move forward into her retirement. Yeah. She literally would go to school. She was a school teacher retiring. She extended her retirement another year because she didn't know what to do with these bunnies. And so I look at you, like when you guys are moving from Chicago to Denver, you guys are sitting there like, you know, the lamps are one thing, but it could be a glass thing or this or a packaging this, and how are we going to bundle that up and whatever it is. All of these things made your decision-making process lag.
Correct.
Until you finally just muscled up the energy, like, I'm fine, we'll just do it. And it was problematic. It was an issue. So you guys going into sellers that are having the same holdups in their business of like, there's bunnies in every business owner's business.
Yep.
That are keeping them from moving forward. I want to retire, but I want to sell, but I want to do this, but. So sometimes it's the buyer that comes in and says, hey, you've got the bunnies, or you, the facilitator, or you're like, I see your bunnies. Mm-hmm. And I actually have somebody that has a mom that has a pickup truck that will come and pick up these bunnies. That loves bunnies.
Yeah.
It's freaking weird, man. I tell that bunny story to thousands of people every week. You know how I got my first deal? I found the bunnies.
About the bunnies. And I think that's the thing is like, and maybe that's encouragement to you guys out there is like, okay, if business seems complicated, maybe you've been in the real estate space or you've been thinking about that. I think there's a both and situation for you, because if you're good with people and you're good at negotiating these deals, largely speaking, you're just like, you already know about the bunnies, you know how to care. And again, if you do that with the context of actual humanity and care, congrats. Like you still care about her and you care about the bunnies. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know what happened to the bunnies.
My mom took them to her ranch. and she ate them. Just kidding. She didn't. She found somebody in her church that was like they had a chicken coop and they had like a couple of goats. And my mom was like, do you want these? And she gave them to somebody in her church group.
Happy bunnies.
Happy bunnies. Happy. My mom felt good. Everybody felt great. Janie, this was what's funny. The seller called me 2 weeks later. She says, Pace, I'm a school teacher. I gave myself a homework assignment to make a decision on who I'm selling the house to within 2 weeks. Today's that day, and I'm selling the house to you. And I'm like, I told you I can't pay anywhere near what you wanted. It's not a good fit. She's like, and then she goes, well, blah, 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 right? She all of a sudden goes, I finally could see the light of where I was going. I could finally see that Oregon was a real possibility for me because you came in, made me happy with the bunnies. Your mom was happy because she did something for me. And the lady, whoever ended up with the bunnies, some lady in my mom's church, like wrote a thank you card to Janie Munson and was like, thank you for the bunnies. My kids love them.
Triple win.
It's triple win, bro. And there's businesses that I'm sure that you guys have done that with where you've got somebody out there going, I'm really bad at an upstart. I'm really bad at starting a business. And I don't want to go through all of that. A year later, 2 years later, after they buy a business through you guys, are probably like, dude, you guys saved me 10 years of my life.
Correct.
And the seller is like,
pressing time.
You found my bunnies. You helped somebody else that wanted those bunnies, take them over, and my life is free. And sometimes this is an interesting thing I'm thinking about. A lot of founders get into businesses that they probably should have never been in the first place because it doesn't fit their passion or their actual core competency. They jumped into that business because somebody told them it was a good business. Their dad was in that same business, so they followed suit into following their parents. And then 5 years later, 10 years later, they go, I hate this. I don't like this. My passion isn't here. And so sometimes you guys have to understand a tired seller is not, it's like, why would they get rid of a business? They might have gotten into the business in a way that they didn't want to be there in the first place. Yeah. You guys ever see that?
Or conversely, they're an amazing craftsperson. They're really good, like Steve Jobs. Amazing craftsperson, understood his craft really well. He probably needed Tim Cook at some point in time.
Yep, 100%.
Right? And so think about it through that. Let me give you one key question that you can ask and really understand people's incentives, what they're excited about in a networking environment. So say you're just business networking, maybe your local chamber event for all I know. Before you get excited and talk about your favorite subject, which is for most people that I meet, it's themselves.
Yep.
A great question to ask someone is just like, hey, what are some connections that are relevant and helpful for you right now? Like, who's someone here that you're hoping to meet tonight or over the next week or two that's really, really relevant for you?
Yeah.
The fastest way to understand what someone's actually interested in and where their squeakiest wheel in their business or their life is right now.
They're missing key.
Is that question.
Yeah.
And it's non-invasive. It's 100% of value add. It's not manipulative, but it's the quickest way to go, you know what? Like, oh yeah, I got you. Right? I do that a few times over.
I love this a lot because here's the other thing about that is that when you're in a room full of 100 people, let's say, which is a pretty sizable room, like the room last night that we were at, 250 people showed up to this thing. It's a lot of people to meet. If you don't have a very specific question to ask people and you just bump into people like, hi, what's your name? And you don't know where to jump off, your suggestion is start with value, which also then gives you the ability to go, I'm going to go find that person for you. Hopefully I'll see you later. And you can then leave and go meet someone else.
Yeah. And you're like, sure enough. And I don't know how many times this has happened to me. Like, oh my gosh, John Doe over here just asked to meet someone like you, Sally Sue. Let me connect you guys.
Bro, I had one of the greatest moments of this last November. I go run an event. Do you know Steve Harward from PCS, right? Good friend of mine. I go, let's do an event at your...
Steve's legend at this, by the way.
He's so good. Yeah. He truly is behind the scenes, one of the best connectors on the planet. So Steve, he goes, hey, let's do this client appreciation connected thing. And I go, let's do it. So I get Jerry Norton, Cody Sperber, Jamil Damji, Carlos Reyes, and myself on Steve's jet. And we fly up there. Eric went with us. And it was last November. I don't know if you know the story about this $1 million. No. Okay, so I'm in this group and we're vibing, we're having a good time, and we speak. Up in front, we do a little panel, but the most important thing is really connecting with people. So you get down and you start taking pictures and you say hi to everybody and whatever else, right? And so I do the same thing, different words. I like the way you say it better. I like that. What are some relevant relationships for you and your business that could help you, blah, 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 right? So I asked a guy, I go, what do you have? What do you need? He goes, well, I have a 75-acre development and we're almost at the end. But I can't refinance. I need another $1 million. And so I'm here looking for somebody that has $1 million. And I'm like, you've done like all this? He goes, yep, I'm just short. Like we had all of our private money. We went a little over budget, but we probably need 500, but I'm going to raise $1 million. If I had $1 million right now, this would solve my whole problem. I go, okay, if I could find you $1 million, would you give me 3% of this whole project? He goes, done. I go, really? Okay, great. I go, I'm going to go find you $1 million. No joke. I turn around, next guy, Jody Evans. I don't even know Jody Evans, but I found out who Jody Evans was. I literally turn around. I'm standing in the same spot. I go from here to here, and I go, hi, what do you have? What do you need? He goes, I have a major problem. I just sold part of my business. He goes, I sold a piece of property, and I have to 1031 $1 million in the next 3 weeks.
Or else, penny.
Yeah, and I go, if I find you something for $1 million, do you mind if I make 3% of the whole project? He goes, dude, you would be doing me a favor. So I step back and I tap both of you on each other. I go, you guys need to meet. And I structure a deal, and so out of that deal, I'll probably make about $1 million in a 4-year time span because I connected 2 human beings.
And you shouldn't feel bad about that.
No, I was excited about it. I bragged about it.
They shouldn't feel bad about that.
No, Jody Evans, he'll be on sometimes Jody is on, he's a great guy. He's invested in some of my other apartment deals because here's how he felt. He goes, I couldn't find something to 1031 my money into. And I was stressing out about the fact that I had to earmark and basically claim that I was going to put my $1 million into this within 3 weeks, or I was going to have to pay the tax. Pace saved me $400,000 is how he looks at it.
Game on.
And then that was about a year ago. He says his equation looks that that 1 million will turn into 4 million within a 3-year time span. So 4x his money in 3 years, pretty good.
Yep.
So he comes on my lives and I tell that story every once in a while, every 3 or 4 months, and he'll pop in and goes, this is true. This is all true. This is true. This is so amazing. But because of that, he feels indebted to me. And so he sees a project I have going on. He goes, how much do you need? I go, 200 grand. He goes, here you go. And he invests with me. And so it's amazing. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about upstairs, is that the life journey of that client and these relationships and understanding what people need along the way is powerful, and looking at things as shapes rather than, a self, like a victim mentality of like, well, not a victim mentality, but low self-esteem, lack of value in your mind of like, I don't bring anything of value. The connection of one human to another human being is worth millions of dollars. There's tremendous value in that. So how would you re-say that question again to somebody at a meetup?
So what are some connections that you're looking for tonight that would be of value to you?
Love that.
Simple, easy, non-invasive. I'm not asking their life story, right? I'm not giving mine.
But you're asking them to give you something pertinent, something that's stressful about what they're going through, and they'll word vomit to you for a little bit. And you go, perfect. Do you mind if I go find? That's the great thing. Yeah. There's a good out too.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you mind if I go find that person for you? Great. Hopefully I see you again tonight. If I don't, expect a text message from me in the next 30 days. I'm going to find that person for you.
Yep. Easy peasy. Now this happened literally yesterday at a table. Mm-hmm. So
the last night's Bigger Pockets thing?
No. So mid-market. So I'm working on closing a deal right now.
What's mid-market mean?
So we've talked about kind of some smaller market deals that 500 to 1.5 kind of range a little bit, and some transactional details around there. The application around this is the exact same in the mid-market. Okay. It's just a matter of language and understanding it. So I'm at a closing table yesterday. So we're looking to sell. I'm representing the seller. The seller's looking for $30 million. And the buyer wants to spend 20. It's a big difference. We're working through that. And they go, hey, if we could get access to capital to cover that difference, I think we got a deal. Right? And so I think we've got this. And there's some other mechanics here, but they're doing what's called a roll up. So they're rolling up a bunch of companies, and they're going to use kind of the Marcus Lemonis model, right? They're going to have a shared services pod model of growth kind of marketers to go and grow these companies, and ultimately they're going to IPO this business, right? Which is listed on the NASDAQ, and actually it's going to be publicly traded, which is a pretty common theme right now. That the challenge within the space right now is finding that pod of growth marketers and people that understand how to take 10 or 15 businesses, take their strengths, deficiencies, et cetera, and make that into something where 1 + 1 = 3. So they understand that. They know that. They're looking to me because I understand the playbooks of these companies as they come together. And so we get to this moment. I mean, this has been, months in the making, getting to this table. And so after the conversation, I'm going like, hey, insert buyer's name. I go, hey, what's holding you back? And they're like, man, if we could find 15 mil to get, basically to bridge that gap between buying our first 3 or 4 companies. That'll get us to a place where we can then IPO. And whoever gives us that 15 mil will make 19.5 on that when that moment happens.
So essentially 2.5 times their money, or double their money plus some change.
And by the way, we'll give them a seat at the table, some cap tables, blah, 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 and then they'll roll over into equity into that IPO. I go, so what you're saying is you need 15. So I'm literally texting people at that table like, hey, I've got 15 million, minimum return of 30% on that money, right? If first person at the table eats. Right. But this is just understanding what's important to people. And this is really what's
first person at the table eats, Eric. Write that one down. The first person at the table eats. This is the same thing when I'm raising capital for a deal, is my first investors to the table that claim their spot on like a multifamily deal. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that I typically fly out to the property. I spend 2 days with them. I give them a full like higher level education. And the other investors that take a little bit more time, they're like, hey, why didn't I get to go to the trip? I'm like, because I didn't say this, but now I can. First person at the table eats, baby.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
And likely those people were in your life because they'd served you and you served them throughout 100%, that process, right?
So, they were excited about the investment and all that kind of stuff, but I love that. So first person at the table eats.
And here's the cool thing about like Reg A and what's all happened in that, right? Now we can crowdsource these types of things, with the SEC regulations and things of that nature. And this is what like Cardone and like funds are coming together and doing. So a bit of background, the feeder of sellers is through this thing called Powerhouse Mastermind, right? So we develop and get great qualified sellers through that are if they're not ready to sell, we hang out with them for the next year or two of their lives, give them the connections, get them get them the right people in their worlds and the right education to do that. So if you're an e-commerce founder, omni-channel, like you're selling into retail or things like that, definitely hit up Powerhouse Mastermind.
How do they do that? Where do they go?
It's powerhousemasterminds.com, or hit up a guy named Los Silva.
Los is dope. He's Hustle. On, is it Los Hustle on Instagram?
Yeah.
I don't memorize people's Instagram names. That's why I appreciate your Instagram name. I love Los, but Los Hustle. You're right.
Los Hustle.
Los Hustle, HUSTLE. Los Hustle, LOSHUSTLE. So DM him.
Yep.
He has, it's powerhousebrands.co/learn pub, or powerhousebrands.co, I guess is another.
Los will take care of you. Just hit up Los.
Yeah, just DM him, guys. Or just go on Instagram.
And then he has partnered with a guy named Josh Elizeche. Say that 3 times fast.
Why does everybody call him Josh Snow?
Because no one knows how to pronounce Elizeche.
Yeah, even like somebody was telling me the other day, a couple of weeks ago, my partner Cody Barton's friends with Josh, and he's like Snow. Yeah, Snow. I was talking to Snow. And I'm like, who's Snow? Oh, Josh Snow. And then today I realized Josh Snow's last name is not even Snow.
I think he might have actually legally changed it over,
Smart
but like
man.
literally it's branded now because he started Snow Teeth Whitening. They'll do 250 million top line next year. He's bootstrapped that all the way. I mean, this guy is insane. And so he started this thing with Los called Powerhouse Mastermind. So if you're in a place where you're like, I just need to learn how to grow companies, or I have a company I need to learn how to grow, hit up Los. Chat about that. The conveyor belt and where that gets interesting for us within the deal flow world is now we have this great group of qualified sellers that are coming out. Now I got to go patch that together with qualified buyers. And over time, as those kings and queens build castles and now they look to build empires, now we're serving people with venture funds and creating our own funds around this. So like my goal a year from now is to be sitting at the table and be like, yeah, so we found that 15 mil within our Powerhouse Ventures mastermind, or these people, right, through Reg A funding, or we hit up Pace's network and literally we found 15 overnight, right? Or over the 30 days, because we felt really good about that. There's a strong deal at 30%. And we went and found that. And that's a syndicated commercial style real estate fund, but done in the business with a business context.
Yeah. The great thing about a Reg A, for people that don't know what a Reg A is Reg A is Regulation A. It's basically just the ability to go to non-accredited investors that you don't know who they are. Right. Where the advantage is like years before social media existed, nobody was doing Reg A. They were doing Reg D, right? It's like, I know you are accredited. I know you as an individual, and they were going out cold calling people, going to people's offices, meeting with people, glad handing and all that kind of stuff. But now in the advent of social media, a Reg CF, I have a Reg CF, a regulation crowd fund, is limited to $5 million. That's it. So I can only do $5 million. I can take that Reg CF and I can upgrade that next year to a Reg A. I didn't feel comfortable doing a Reg A this year just because I think there's a little bit more cost associated with it. So, and I was like, I haven't done a crowdfund type of raise. Everything I've done prior was a Reg D. Okay. So a Reg A is amazing because you look at Grant Cardone raising, I think this year or maybe the first quarter of next year, he'll surpass $1 billion in private capital raised. And primarily it's through Reg A.
Just regular everyday investors in his audience.
YouTube audience, Instagram audience, his email audience, right? These people, he has done such a phenomenal job. So you could go to a guy like Grant Cardone and go, hey, you have a Reg A. You understand, you have the ecosystem to go and raise capital. I have this deal that I'm trying to put together that has a gap of 15 million bucks. Let's go to your audience and see how much they want, how much of this pie do they want to take down?
Yep.
Let's go utilize. You can't just utilize your Reg A because it has a thesis attached to it, meaning we're going to go buy multifamily, but he could create a new Reg A tomorrow.
Yep.
And go, let's put a $50 million Reg A together. We'll give $15 million to this deal that Beau's got. We'll give $15 million to this. We'll do $10 million to that. And then they've got an aggregate of 4 or 5 companies that they've invested in as a Reg A.
Yep.
And that's essentially all you got to find.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I'm just literally taking what I've practiced in networking settings for the last decade into a situation where I'm like, yeah, this is the one linchpin, and then this guy's off to the races with this IPO, et cetera. And so the important thing to take it back is to figure out what's important to people. And all of that will become shapes to you the more that you do that. And whether that's in real estate and you get to see it physically, you can transfer those skills over to the business buying side of things and do both and.
I've got a question for you, just in wrapping up, because I'd love to have you more in our audience. If I challenged your company in the next 12 months to find me and present me business opportunities that were creative finance strategy, so that my audience, which is creative finance related, goes, I like that. Pace is creative finance. If I challenge you guys and go, look, no money down, cool, money down, cool, whatever, let's figure something out. Is there an opportunity where I could buy something in the next 12 months? Or is it like the next couple of months?
I'm talking like 3 to 6 months.
3 to 6 months. Go. Okay, let's go.
So we've got a list of $200 million in our portfolio right now of sellers that are ready to go, that I've qualified, looked through, vetted.
So could you do, what if we did like a monthly update for the next 6 months for an hour? We do it on Zoom.
Yep.
And you go, Pace, I've got 4 businesses. We don't talk about their name and all that kind of stuff. We keep it like, I have a laundry company that does X, Y, and Z. They have 7 laundromats in one location where they have constant people that are doing a fold and wash type of service and it's on recurring revenue, blah, blah, blah. And you present it to me, go, I like that. How do we do that with no money down? Go, Pace, can't do it with no money down. We got to get you $1 million. Dude, I would love to do that.
Let's do it.
You down for that?
Monthly. I'm in.
Guys, if you want to see more of that and more of Beau, make a comment down below. This was freaking great for me. I could talk to this guy for literally hours. This could be a 3-hour podcast. But we're not going to let that happen because you won't watch the full 3 hours. So, number one, if you're here, somebody shared this with you and you haven't liked, you haven't subscribed, do that for us. Give us some love. Go over to Beau's Instagram. It's Beau Haralson on Instagram. That is spelled HARALSON.
Yeah, not the Woody Harrelson way. And then Beau is spelled uniquely too. It's BEAU.
Yeah, because I've seen BEAUX.
Right. That's Louisiana. In Texas, we drop the X.
Drop the X. Okay, cool. So Beau Haralson on Instagram. Also, your guys' Deal Flow brokerage.com. Dealflowbrokerage.com. Go check them out. I'm gonna have Beau come back multiple times. This guy's analogies and metaphors are amazing. The conversation is a lot of fun. This is something I'm interested in learning, and I'm gonna buy a business in the next 12 months with this guy. Hopefully the next 6 months. So make a comment down below. Whatever questions you guys have, we'd love to bring Beau back, do a little Q&A, maybe even have him present his first business via Zoom. And we'll let you guys actually come in on it live and ask some questions, and then we'll post it on YouTube later. So thank you guys so much. We'll see you in the next episode.
Appreciate you, brother.
Amazing.